Hello and welcome to Stand Up for Jehovah and happy birthday to me because I had a birthday last week. Now when I was a kid I didn't mind missing birthdays at all because it meant that I got to avoid the song that all the kids sang, which was happy birthday to you, squash tomatoes and stew, you look like a monkey and you live in a zoo. And I was probably a kind of kid that overthought things, but I thought that's quite a cruel song and I don't look like a monkey. And what's supposed to happen to the squashed tomatoes and the stew? Maybe it gets tipped over your head because obviously the song's a humiliating song. I think I really spent a lot of anxiety overthinking the song, but I really didn't mind missing the song. And the whole rationale for not celebrating birthdays as witnesses was that there was only one mention of a birthday in the Bible. And somebody got the head chopped off, and therefore that indicated that birthdays were a bad thing. But listen, there's only one mention of a fat person in the Bible, and that's Eglon. I mean, the Bible does talk about gluttony, and people say, oh, that means that the Bible's against fat people. But that's not true, because you could be a glutton and have a really good metabolism, couldn't you? So gluttony and fattening doesn't necessarily mean the same thing. So there's one mention of a fat person in the Bible, and it's in Judges 3:17, and it says this, or hang about. There we go. Would you like to look the scripture up with me, brothers? I'll wait until you found it. We all found it? Okay, Judges 3:17. He then presented the tribute to Eglon, the king of Moab. Now Eglon was a very fat man. And then it goes on to say in 21, then Ehud drew the sword from his right thigh with his left hand and plunged it into the belly. This is of Eglon. The handle went in after the blade, and the fat closed in over the blade, for he did not draw the sword out of his belly, and the fecal matter came out. Well, arguably, if somebody had stuck a sword into my big fat belly, I'd shit myself as well. So, I don't see the Jehovah's Witnesses pursuing a policy of sword-based genocide against fat people, because the only fat person mentioned was Eglon, who got stabbed to death, and that seemed to be a good thing. There was no particular condemnation of poor old fatty Eglon getting stabbed. In fact, you might be interested to know that back in the 50s, the governing body did present to a group of American elders a vote about whether fat people should be disfellowshipped. I shit you not. But I think what happened, all the elders who had fat wives knew that their lives wouldn't be worth living if they voted yes. They were thinking to themselves, okay, if this is a yes vote, who's going to cook my tea tonight when I go home to Mrs. Roly-Poly and inform her that I voted that she should be disfellowshipped? Anyway, the thing is, none of the fat people I ever knew, in the truth, it wasn't their fault. It wasn't their fault at all. It was, dense bones or being under tall. In my situation, it's not my fault at all. It's my genes. I have a pie gene. So anyway, birthdays. There's one mention of birthdays in the Bible, and it's a psychotic bitch who, when asked what she wants, says instead of wanting a chocolate buttons, chocolate fudge, chocolate cake like the rest of us, wanted a head on a plate. One psychotic bitch, and the whole thing gets banned for everyone. How is that fair? Obviously, that's the birthday that was going to get reported in the Herald Chronicle the next morning, isn't it? Not all the other birthdays that were going on, where the kids were getting Lego and Scale Electrics all over Herod land and just proceeding normally. Obviously, that birthday was going to get reported because it involved a beheading, and those newspaper items do tend to get reported more than the things where people aren't beheaded. I'll give you an example. If you look on the BBC website today, which you won't be able to do because by the time you watch this, you won't know when today is. But when you look on the BBC website today, there are two news items that caught my eye. One is man overboard on cruise ship. Well, what about all the other people that aren't overboard? Does this mean that we've got to ban all cruise ship-based enjoyment activities because one man fell overboard? I don't see Jehovah's Witnesses banning cruise ships. The other one is this one. The headline says, Croydon Construction Company dodged taxes and cheated creditors. Apart from the fabulous alliteration there, I don't know whether Jehovah's Witnesses should ban Croydon-based companies or construction-based companies or Croydon construction-based companies. It's ambiguous, isn't it? Which one you should avoid because they dodge taxes and cheat creditors. What would Jesus do? That's what I find myself asking. Which thing would Jesus ban? So birthdays, in my opinion, I think birthdays are for kids, really. I mean, to be honest, you don't do a lot to deserve a birthday, do you? You've not been particularly clever in the rest of the year. You may have been, but you may have not been. Hitler had birthdays and he wasn't stupendously clever, was he? It's not a merit-based reward system. It's more an arbitrary, random-based reward system. But it's for kids. It would be so cruel to deny a child of a massive milestone. When you get to a certain age, you're less interested in those milestones. And you almost want to pretend that they haven't happened. But when you're little, it's a big fraction of your life. If you hit 4, then that's a quarter of your life, isn't it? If you hit 5, that's a fifth. We could go into a fractions lesson if you want me to. When you get to my age, it's a of your life, and it's less significant. I genuinely think birthdays are for kids, and I'm really glad that I left so that my children could have birthdays, although I don't see much appreciation for it, but anyway. So I'm sure you're wondering, what did I do to celebrate my birthday? Well, I'll tell you. I put makeup on for work. That's what I did. Normally I go to work and I don't even have time to brush my hair, and sometimes I look in the mirror in the toilet and notice that I haven't brushed my hair. But this morning, on my birthday morning, I thought I won't scare the kids today, although it does help with discipline. I'll put some makeup on and I'll really push the boat out. Obviously all the kids recoil in horror and go, "Ah, miss, what have you done to your face? It's got ink on it." So, but that was cool. That was my birthday celebration. And I treated myself to an extra early bedtime. Half an hour early, in fact. So I was in bed for 8:30 on my birthday. And that's how I intend to continue celebrating my birthdays until the final one comes. Thank you for listening to Stand Up for Jehovah.